you guys for joining us. I am Guy Danhoff. We're going to be joined by our Executive Director, Tom Lowry, as well as from Shape America, Joey Martelli. And today's session is going to be called What's Working Now in Social Media. And specifically, we're going to be looking at strategy and outcomes, because at the end of the day, with the amount of administrators that are on this webinar, it's very important to understand how do the strategies link to or get associated with the specific outcomes you're looking for. So that's what we're looking to do. If we look at this picture, when you think about social media, you don't see that I have Facebook up here, I have Twitter up here, I have YouTube up here. I have an iPhone looking at people. The bottom line is social media is about connecting with people, specifically connecting with our state, connecting with the people who are educators, our administrators, even parents. And that is what we're going to talk about today. What is now working? Because the rules have all shifted drastically since COVID-19. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Just a brief background on, first of all, Thomas Lowry. Tom is our Executive Director for MOSHAPE. He just signed a renewal contract at the last, or not the last Board of Directors, but the one before that. Tom, we just love the fact that you can be 80 years young and leading a discussion on social media. I have to tell you that that is simply what I think is known as an oxymoron. It's just pretty amazing to think. We're also joined by my partner in crime. I got to tell you, I've been very blessed for about 18, 19 months to get to know Joey Martelli. He's of Shape America, and he is the Advocacy and Public Affairs Manager. I've been so blessed since basically probably around, I don't know, February of a year ago, when Joey and I pretty much have been on strategy calls every 2 weeks as we're constantly trying to refine what we do. So we're kind of excited to share some of these things with you. So Joey, we want to thank you for taking the time to be on this with us, because I think, you know, we're going to share some pretty cool behind the scenes stuff. And then my name is Guy Danhoff. For those of you who don't know, I recently was the Board of Director for MOSHAPE, was overseeing marketing communications the last 2 years. Just recently, I've been appointed as MOSHAPE's Director of Digital Media and Promotions. I'm also part of 2 CDC grants as a social media consultant for Missouri Healthy Schools. And as I just said, I've been working with Shape America. My specialty, though, besides strategy, is the live video component. And you'll get a chance to hear about that. I'm also an international author. Last year, I was blessed enough from Human Kinetics to be co-authoring a book called Health Fitness Management. And I spoke directly in a chapter and a half on digital marketing, certainly as a way to use for undergrads, graduates, and even professionals, on teaching what we're going to talk about today. And lastly, I am Assistant Professor of Health and Sports Sciences at Missouri Baptist University. I teach in 2 divisions, programs, I should say, exercise science as well as sport management. With that, guys, let's go ahead and get started. Well, some people think social media is hard. I would agree. If only we're simple as just trying to grab your eyes' intentions with a bold power tie. That tie is mine on the right that you see there, a very classic tie, a tie that you've probably seen a lot. And then on the tie on the left, well, some people, let's just face it, they like to kind of go rogue. And that is our past president of Shape America, Jamie Sparks, as he has this custom tie, totally branded and decked out. And Jamie, here's all I have to say to you. If you're going to do this, you might want to think about getting this as part of the Shape America merch. So next time, besides the cool shoes, we have the cool ties. And for the ladies, you might want to think about adding to scarves, because I think it's a great idea as a way to create more attention. If only your audience, if only grabbing your audience attention was as simple as just posting your picture from a high school TBT. And yes, that can actually be effective for marketing. Also, if only grabbing your audience attention was as simple as introducing 2 new live streamed shows that were in association with our Missouri PTA, which, by the way, is the 2 shows just got received as of July 1st, we're receiving another CDC grant for COVID, as this content that we're doing with our Tasty Tuesday summer snacks, as well as Baker Spot on addressing, looking at the stuck-at-home recess and the stuck-at-home snacks. This was just recently endorsed by our governor, Parsons. So it's been pretty amazing to think that 11 weeks ago, we started at ground zero in response to what's going on in our country. And we came up with these programs that now have been funded by the CDC. What about if only grabbing your audience's attention was as simple as conducting 2 interviews, not 1, but 2 interviews with 2 society presidents? This was kind of unprecedented. I went early in the morning with Jamie Sparks, and then later with the MOSHAPE Minute, Chris Daly went one-on-one with our own Dr. Dennis Dochev. And that was kind of a very exciting and a more memorable day for us, as in terms of creating a lot of attention. Perhaps there's been nothing more radical that I've ever seen in marketing. Matter of fact, this campaign will be in the next textbook if human kinetics allows me to do it. But if only grabbing your audience's attentions was as simple as streaming live Shape America President Jamie Sparks getting a Mo tattoo, hashtag Mo tattoo for Sparks. And I have to tell you, Joe, I got to bring you into this conversation. What were you thinking when you first saw that picture on the lower right, when we had broadcasted that Jamie was going to get a tattoo? Because I wanted everyone to think he was going to get that on his calf and not the picture on the left.
Yeah, it was interesting to see that, and then the discussion around it. My first thought was, better him than me. So if that's what he wants to do, let him do it. I would happily take a picture and blast it on our feeds, but I'm happy he was getting it, and it turned out very well. And that that campaign and that live stream is really a highlight of kind of taking what's given to you and really showing how you can go behind the scenes and create engaging content, no matter what it is, even if it is the president of the organization getting a tattoo for the new program of the organization.
So you got to tell us, how's Stephanie Morse feeling? Because, she's next.
Stephanie is definitely of a different mindset for getting a tattoo than Jamie, but I think we can convince her to do it. We just need some peer pressure. Never hurt.
Well, I'll just share this. We have 1,400 reasons why she should do it. In other words, we know at least with Jamie and Gardner, 1,400 views. Stephanie, if you are watching, all I'm going to say is, there you go, 1,400 is the baseline.
Yeah.
All right. And perhaps, guys, there's been nothing more profound that I've seen in marketing than if only grabbing your audience's attention was as simple as spreading kindness and positivity organically through a program called Chalk Your Walk. Guys, if you were part of Chalk Your Walk, could you just type in the chat box and just type in the hashtag Chalk Your Walk? I just want to say thank you on our state as we did this. We know that people from all over the country were involved in this. And this was a program that was organic in nature. It started out just being a statewide event. And it quickly escalated to impacting, as you can see in the blue, over 44 states, as well as 3 countries. And this was one of the most amazing things that we've ever seen, to be honest with you. And all I can say is I just want to certainly thank everyone, because what it showed me and what it showed really, I think, the HPA community, is that we could all unite and bond together through this process. What about this? Some of you guys I know are, and Joey, I'm gonna let you take it away because this is now your territory. So Joey, why don't you take this away in terms of what's the big deal with shoes?
Yes, no, this is a great example of, using what the community gives you. So if you've ever been to our annual Speak Out Day in Washington, D.C., one of the features of that is we ask all of our attendees to wear colorful shoes. This started a few years ago. It was an idea from someone who was attending the event. It's an idea that's co-opted by a lot of other groups who, do their advocacy events on Capitol Hill. So how we use this and the way that we want to kind of impress upon you at the state, local level with your brands is, organic ideas like this, they have value long-term. So what we do now is we ask people to take pictures of their shoes and to use the hashtags that we give them and kind of explain, why they're in Washington, D.C., how they're advocating, what messages they're pushing. And you can kind of really see that ripple effect once it comes time to kind of push those messages out. So this is just one example of it. And here's kind of that in action. This is the group that we had at Speak Out Day. And all of these folks, you know, and it kind of rings true, you know, this event is an event that predated social media far and wide, and we've kind of adapted it to a social media world. So that way, even if you're not in Washington, D.C., you have an idea of what we're talking about, why it's important. You get to see what it looks like from an attendee point of view. So this is a perfect kind of time capsule to get your mind around, you know, what do you do at your state level? Is it a conference? Are there workshops? Are there unique opportunities like Chalk Your Walk, like live streams that Guy has kind of set up on MOSHAPE's end to kind of use some of this value and extract it and kind of really push it out to an audience that is bigger than the 200 folks who attend this event.
And then Joe, you have to speak to this because again, in my mind, being Mr. Data Analytics, this might be one of the most profound days of social media for Shape America.
Yes, yeah, you can see my phone with low battery here is a screenshot of us trending in Washington, D.C. and in Virginia for Speak Out Day. So this just shows the power of a unified voice. You know, this is obviously using our power for a great purpose and getting our message out there in terms of specifics. So one is obviously the hashtag for the day, where people are kind of posting what's going on throughout the day, and the other hashtag is for kind of our messaging and what we want, specifically more Title IV and SHAPE advocacy. Now, this is just a feature of what we did, and it kind of shows you how valuable this could be for you to really tap into that audience and to put out messages that kind of, you know, really explain what you're doing. So it reaches an audience that isn't just, like I said, the 200 people there. You would see this if you were in Virginia, trending in Alexandria. So if you're in the areas around it, so you can kind of tap in and see what we're pushing for. And that helps when it comes to advocacy specifically.
All right. And what can I say, James, Joey, this is one of the best shots I've seen you guys ever put out. So why don't you speak to this, because this is pretty cool.
Yes, and this also goes to the idea that you've probably seen this picture before. This picture was one that we took a few years ago. If I remember correctly, these were a bunch of students who it was their first time with their advisor. And this picture was an organic piece of content that we captured on site, and we've repurposed it in a lot of different materials. So I think sometimes, and Guy can speak to this more, you know, people get so focused on like a 3-day event or a 2-day event when images are long lasting, and you can kind of take stuff that you've captured on site and repurpose it for years to come and use it in your materials going forward and really drive home the different points that you want. So, you know, when we do blog posts, when we pitch articles to newspapers, when we're sending out media advisories, you know, pictures like these will be used. And this picture is just from an event from a few years ago. So, you know, don't get too stressed and don't think of your event, whether it is an on-site event or an online event or it's a campaign, as just for those 2-3 days. You know, think of long-term strategy. How can we repurpose some of this stuff? What messages kind of do we want to connect one event to another, and things like that. So Advocacy Day and Speak Out Day is a perfect example of that, because while the asks may change little by little each year, the idea of speaking out, shape advocacy, more Title IV, that kind of connects everything throughout each year. So
yeah. So with that, guys, what I'd like to do now is to go ahead and give you guys a poll and see how high you guys want to jump in using social media. Partly what we want to do with this, guys, is to really dive into what you really want to learn about, because you're going to find out at the end of this that we're going to be doing some more continuing professional development in this area. And tools like this, taking this poll, is greatly going to help us. So give you guys about another 20 seconds so you guys can vote. but we're going to find this very, very helpful. Go about 10 more seconds and I'm going to end the voting. All right, thank you guys. I'm going to end the poll. And to no surprise, the top two are Facebook and Twitter. And then, of course, then you see like, then it jumps almost half with Instagram and YouTube, and the rest of them are pretty small. Now, when I ask the question, what do you guys want to learn more? And not surprisingly, YouTube and live streaming options. Well, I got some great news for you on both those. You just got to wait to the end of the broadcast. We're going to speak to both those. And yeah, this is great. So go ahead and close this out. And we'll go ahead and continue. So now, some guys might be asking, what, where does this all start? Well, when Tom and I first got together, and he asked me or nudged me to be a board of director for marketing communications, and I said this to Tom. I said, I've been heavy in my doctorate work on social media marketing strategy, been doing this for 4 years on my doctorate, and I said, you can't have social media strategy without an organization strategy. So that's where it has to start first. And the reason why it has to start first is because you have to have the alignment to what you're going to be doing as an organization first. And really, social media is just an extension of that. And Joey, want to add a little bit to that, because I know that's something you and I talk a lot about, especially there, with Shape.
Yeah, so but it's a funny connection, that your first or one of your first meetings with Tom was about that, because when I first got this job a little over 2 years ago, that was my first question to our VP of marketing is what kind of strategy do we want to implement, rather than going down the path of trying to post something, or it's 11:30 a.m. and we haven't put anything on Facebook yet, or Twitter, we haven't put anything in this amount of time. Well, what do we want, and most importantly, what does our audience think, and kind of listening to our audience to kind of build a strategy that ties in organizational goals, but also what is working on that platform,
Right,
which we'll dive into more.
And that's what I want to dive into exactly. So guys, you guys know that I'm a big numbers guy, so I want to start with the numbers. So when I get a chance, and Joey gets a chance, and Tom, I mean, we ask people, and I'm sure this is probably true of the people on this call, we found that 80% of marketers said that their number one strategy is increase engagement. This happens to be what my doctorate works in. I've literally been studying this topic for 4 years. And within that, when people ask, well, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? Well, there's really three main things that like a society or organization like ours, as we try to reach out to the health and physical education community, we should be looking at creating content that we're teaching people other things. A great example that would be like Spaker Spot. They're teaching young people in K through 12 kids how to do physical activity. And the same thing with the show on snacks and teaching them how to make some healthy options. Also, storytelling is huge, huge. And you're gonna hear me talk a little bit more about that. And then lastly, there's nothing quite like when you hear stories that inspire, when you hear stories like Talk Your Walk, or you hear stories like on Health Moves Minds, when you hear how a school district's been changed, or I hear like Ashley Krause talk about what's going on at her school in Farmington, as she talks about the importance and the guidance of the WISC model. These are all important things. But one thing I want to make sure that we remember in terms of platform or strategy, as it says it right here on the left, 74% of consumers share video content. That's why I think it's great you guys want to learn more about live streaming. You guys want to learn a lot more about YouTube. And this is exactly where we're going, because the numbers are dictating that this is going to be the most viewed, but most importantly, the most shared content that we can create. Do anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, and I would double down on that and reiterate the fact that video content. If you think, oh, I don't really know that much, or oh, I'm just getting up to speed, this is a little overwhelming. Look at video first, because video is not only the biggest growth area on social media across any industry, it also is the platform or the way that gets the highest engagement. So
Right.
if you're looking for lack of a better term, low-hanging fruit to kind of jumpstart, your strategy, using video content, whether it's repurposed or original content, is going to get you ahead quicker than trying to create a bunch of new content. So if you're in that game, like MoShape has done, to great fanfare, you look at video first, because it's going to help a ton, and it's going to be easier for your audience to engage with than anything else.
Yeah. Thank you, Joey. All right. So this is kind of where our story began. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, but this really tells a story. A lot of people have asked the question, how did you guys do this? What's been your way of MoShape going from literally not doing a whole lot in social media for years to all of a sudden exploding on the scene? Well, we're going to kind of track our progress. It first started in 2018. We had learned that brand new CEO, Stephanie Morris, was going to be our keynote speaker. And with that, Tom had asked me, Guy, what could we do? What can we do to bring a wow factor? And I said, well, I've been streaming for 4 years at my university. So I had no problem streaming. And when we streamed, what we found is we got 3 times the viewers. In other words, we had 3 times the people that saw it virtually than were actually there in person. This was our starting point. And then I also then had the opportunity, and I want to thank Stephanie for this, is I asked her if I could do an interview, but it was going to be pretty somewhat, intimate, meaning I'm not just going to ask these general questions. I mean, I really wanted to dig into her why. And when we did, that content grew to over 2,400 views. And Joey, I want you to speak to that, because this was kind of a shift, even for Shape America to some degree.
Yeah, and that's a great point to kind of highlight there. And that's why I think this webinar specifically is important, that, you can have the best ideas, you can have the best strategy, but if you don't have buy-in from the top of the organization,
Yep.
It's not going to go very far. So Stephanie is, if you look at the Education Association CEO landscape, she's on the younger side. She gets social media. She has a marketing background. So when she came into the fold, she was ready to kind of push our chips in to really focus on how to grow social media and kind of give her, not only us, but her, a platform and a brand as well. So when she came to me about this idea of doing a live stream interview at state conferences, we were all for it, and it showed not only MoShape but also nationally at our office how valuable this could be, and what what this could do. And as Guy said, that kind of led to a more formal relationship when it came to the national conference, as he kind of helped me. And he can speak more to it, but I can tell you the first thing that we did, and it goes back to the first piece of this slide, is we looked internally first. It was both of our first years, at the national level on site doing social media. I've been with Shape America for going on 7 years now, but I had only gotten the social job in mid 2018. So the first thing we did was look at what did and didn't work previously, and then match that up with what trends were happening early 2019. And we kind of built a plan from there. And I'll turn it over to Guy to kind of show, specific
Sure.
things we did
And
with
when I
that.
told Joey, I said, Joey, look, any client that I've ever worked with, I always start with an audit, just like you do, obviously, with physical education, especially with the 5 health-related components of fitness. You do an assessment, right? You can't really prescribe whatever you're going to do for them on the physical activity without doing an assessment. It's the same thing in the world of social media. I want to know, what's working, what's not working, what you think you're doing, but you're really not doing. Because again, the analytics will prove that. And you always kind of smile a little bit, because there's a few things revealed that I'm not going to go into, but it's kind of funny though when you start to do this and look at that. And we also did this for 4 months of strategic planning. So that when we came out, we knew we were going to introduce a few new things. Number one was live streaming. We wanted to hear from our president, Judy LoBianco. And Judy, if you're watching, man, it was a blast being on that rooftop with you right there in Tampa. As our broadcasts are generating 1,000 views for just a little 15-minute segment. This is probably another big thing. There was 46 video content pieces posted in 4 days. Now, I know it had a lot to do with a lot of that, but still, this was strategic. As Joey said, this was the way to get our story, to get the story out. whether it be an interview, whether it be just, showing video of streaming something live, an event that was happening or part of an event. This was all part of getting people involved, and it created a really cool vibe, if you would, on social media. And then, of course, as the state level, we took advantage of the fact that, well, thanks to Tom Lowry, you got Jamie Sparks to come to us in Missouri in November. And what we did there is we broke news straight from Tampa. And we got Jamie going live, speaking to our audience and getting us fired up about what he was going to bring back to us, about 5 months later, as he introduced the Health Moves Minds program. And that was a huge part for us. And what I want to say to you guys now, and here's the question I get asked the most, or Tom gets asked the most: when did you guys flip the switch? Well, it's pretty easy. I can remember the June 2019 planning meeting, board of director meeting. And after everyone experienced Shape Tampa 19, the question was asked by our then president, Sandy Moore, who asked Guy, can we scale this? And I said, absolutely, we can scale this. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to live stream 11 broadcasts, but it's going to be on the very best content that we're going to offer. We're also going to launch Instagram. Why? Because we knew we wanted to get our our future professionals involved. Also, this is something that kind of happened by random chance. I happened to be in a random chance, was in a session with Dr. Ashley Krauss because she was talking about Know Your Why. Well, after I heard her story and what she's doing and the impact she's having with the whole WISC model, we actually did an interview and we put that video out, and that was our second highest viewed content at 1,400 views. And then the last thing that came about, and Tom, you can speak to this, I can't imagine what you guys must have been thinking on the Sunday when I gave you guys the results and said, hey, the analytics said that we had 10 times the engagement rate percentage than we did a year ago because of the way we fostered, again, from the lead of Shape America in Tampa, bring it to us in November.
Yes, absolutely. When we're looking at scaling, we're always trying to scale up, not scale down. And the more penetration that we can have with each of the projects that we shoot out there and push, the greater our membership will react, because they are now more engaged and aware of everything that is going on. So we're talking every day about our next steps,
yeah,
and what more we can do. So we'll get to that point.
Yep, and I'll add one thing about the convention piece, because I know that's something that if you haven't attended one of our national conferences, you probably at least have some awareness based on the social media. It's very key, as we were going through the audit and as we were kind of planning a few things out, to know, what your audience will react to. I don't want to say we got lucky, but it was very fortuitous that we had DMC at the conference in Tampa, because his keynote and his energy was going to play very well via video. We also know that via some of the sessions that we put on, like the Chop Challenge as an example, that's something that we can take and immediately get out, and our audience will really engage with it and like it. I'm not breaking any news here when I tell you that on average, our audience is looking for things that they can implement into the classroom pretty soon after a national conference. If you look at the sessions that are high attended and high rated, and if you look at our social media content, a lot of folks want to see something, kind of evaluate it based on the merits, if it meets the standards, and then implement it into their classroom. So with Guy on board, we took a shift to kind of focus on some of that content as well. I'm not 100% sure of how each of your state conferences shake out, but if you look at it in that lens, like, what does our audience want? What does our audience react to and engage to positively, then it'll be very easy to kind of start putting things in order and figuring out, what is important, what we should be sharing. So that's just one way to look at it from our side. I can give you examples by the page load of things that we've done, but that's a simple one, that you can kind of see and see how we put that into action.
Absolutely. And with that, guys, I'm going to tell you right now, the hardest, most challenging thing we face in social media, here it is. Brand is built where the intention is. In other words, if you can't create attention for your content, your brand isn't building, your message isn't being heard. And what's made it worse today since COVID, this is why the session is titled what it is. about, what's working now with social media. This is one big pivot. We have record numbers of people on social media right now. And because of it, we've got to cut through a lot of clutter. And we have to get very creative in our content. That's part of the reason why this session exists. And we're not going to solve all that in this one session, but this is a conversation starter to make sure everyone clearly understands, especially those in leadership. You have to understand that if we're going to compete, if we're going to get our message out, if we're going to connect with our community in health and physical education, it starts by we have to create attention. And that's why we have social media specialists that specialize in doing these kinds of things, because the strategic planning is so crucial as part of this process. Now, the other part of it is, anyone's ever been around me in any sessions I've ever talked, this might be the most quoted thing I give. And it is simply, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And the reason why I say this all the time, guys, we got to stop focusing about the what, and we got to be talking about the why. The why is so critically important, very important. That's why whenever I get a chance to work with anyone, whether it's Stephanie Morris, whether it's Jamie Sparks, as you guys recently seen my interview with him, whether it's things like Lisa Farmer, doing Stuck at Home Summer's Tasty Tuesday, or Spaker Spot. As soon as these folks go live, the immediate thing I do is go one-on-one with them in an interview. And I can promise you, I'm always asking at some point, guys, why are you doing it? Because when you hear people's whys, like Spaker Spot, for example, those two gals who were rock stars, if you would, when they were future professionals, one actually was our president back in 2007 or 8. Christy Spears, she won a national award for Major of the Year for Shape America in 2016. If you were to ask them right now why they're doing it, do you know why they started Spaker Spot? Because it's sickened them, because they care about their students so much. They wanted to have an opportunity or an option to provide physical activity to them. And they came up with this crazy idea called Spaker Spot, which now, last I check on analytics, every time they go live, they get over 1,000 views. I want to thank you guys, for some of you guys, for tuning in. That just goes to show the impact that we can have. And guys, this all started just 11 weeks ago. We didn't have big planning meetings for this. We were merely responding to the needs that the Missouri PTA shared with us and said, hey guys, can we partner together to figure this thing out? And that's all we've done, is we've taken the call very serious to go from basically a convention-only thinking society here in Missouri to now meeting the needs of our students, of fellow educators, and administrators. And that's why we do what we do. So I'm going to run through these fairly quickly, guys. We will have a separate workshop opportunity. I'm just going to go through high points on this, but I want to give you guys, to start with, the 15 best practices. So guys, if you did nothing else, if you just did these 15 things, it's going to be really, really powerful. You're going to see the numbers move. And the first one starts with that you have to not just identify what makes your program different or your state different, or whatever else you're offering up, like Health Moves Minds, but you have to be able to communicate it. In my research, I found that there's a big disconnect, especially in the fitness industry, between those people who can identify what makes them different versus them actually communicating it. And that's why we also do the audit, because you might find that you think you're saying these things, but when we do, especially the content audit, we find that messaging actually isn't even going out. You don't spend enough time on that. That's what we found in the research. The second one, well, I think I just talked about that, why it's so important. No pun intended, to start with your why. Because again, people don't buy what you do, they're going to buy why you do it. Third one, master the art of storytelling. Like Joey just said, guys, facts tell, stories sell. And besides, people remember stories a lot more, and people share stories a lot more than facts. That's what makes it so cool that we have this platform to do this in social media. All I can tell you is Mary knows this one. She's our social media manager, and if it wasn't for using a calendar, I'll be honest with you, we'd be in disarray. That's another big secret that we have. People ask, how do you do what you do? It's really simple, guys. We use a calendar. We're communicating on what content we're putting out, when and where, and what types of things we're going to put out. The fifth one, always use bit.ly links. Guys, it's again for tracking, For example, I can tell you that we had over 200 views on the webinar that we did last week on the reentry, or excuse me, the reentry considerations based on the new Shape America document. And that was just, again, from putting out with a bit.ly link straight to our YouTube. And again, if you're not doing these things, these are the small little things that you can be doing that's going to make an enormous difference. Michael Jordan says this: get the fundamentals down and the level of everything you do will rise. It will rise. And it's the same with social media. These are the fundamentals that I'm sharing with you guys. Always, 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 always use appropriate hashtags. Joey just showed you a few slides ago the importance of Speak Out Day and how those two hashtags were trending nationally. Number 7, I can't speak to this enough, especially those students that have, especially the grad students. If your social media isn't getting the traction you want, a lot of times it's really because you're not using great attention-grabbing headlines. You also want to monitor all your social media analytics. You don't want to be flying in the dark. You also want to look at to see how that connects with your website analytics and CRM analytics, how important that is. Number 9, I've already made the case for using live streaming video. This is a fantastic way to connect and engage with your followers. And number 10, Tom and I say this all the time. Joey and I say this all the time. Jamie Sparks and I, every time I've ever interviewed him, he comes back to this too. We've got to be using data to drive our decisions, especially with marketing. Joey, is there anything you want to add to these first 10?
No, the only thing I would say, and we talked about this earlier today when Guy and I were talking offline, you know, if you can get these 10 down, and like he said, a lot of it is just maybe tweaking a little bit of how you think and what you're doing now, you're going to be so far ahead. And to be honest, when I got this job, these first 10 were kind of the things that I was doing. You know, obviously I didn't have the chart in front of me, but the idea of strategy, the idea of doubling down on video, the idea of creating a schedule, and then looking at our analytics. I mean, those for me were the things that kind of helped us. It informed basically everything we've done since I took over this platform. And that's not to say that you know, we're the greatest social media brand in the world, but it does help a ton, you know, with your day-to-day planning, with your work, with the job that you do. We understand that everyone's a volunteer, and it's tough to kind of really balance multiple things. But if you can just use these and implement them into what you're doing, into your strategy, it's going to make your life, you know, way easier, and your brand is going to really flourish from it, like Tom had identified with what MOSHAPE has done.
So speaking of analytics, guys, these are 2 simple tools on the left. It's actually a bit.ly report. It comes right off my phone. I can see in real time the content that we put out, and we get a chance to see that. I just listed for you guys our top 10. And then on the right, I want to thank Tom for letting me share this, but this is the actual Chalk Your Walk analytics. And Joey, why don't you just take our viewers through, in some ways, just how easy this is to read, but also how profound it is, because there's a couple of things in here that unless you get trained in learning how to read these things, there's a couple of very profound things here.
Yeah, and we'll go pretty quick because I know we're running up on time, but you can find charts like this, you know, if you're logged in on your Twitter profile. On the left side, you can click the little 3 dots, and then there's an analytics tab. This is the first thing that you're going to see. You can change the daily output, and you can see underneath this the exact tweets and the engagement rate. What you see here is an engagement chart over a 7-day period. As Guy said, this kind of for their purposes was the Chalk Your Walk week. The blue highlighted area is the number of engagements and impressions that they got. And like I said, Twitter has a really good platform, so it's pretty easy to see this stuff. The thing that may be most interesting, and it's most interesting to me, is if you look at the bottom piece, the shaded in, the grayer part, that is actually the number of tweets they sent. So once again, not breaking any news, the more tweets you send, the higher your impressions will be, even though your engagement may be down, just because Twitter is a numbers game. If you tweet 1,000 times a day, you're naturally going to have most likely more impressions than someone who tweets 10 times a day. But If you look at what MoShape did specifically on the 26th, they had their highest day of impressions with the least number of tweets. So that means that day, you know, the tweets that they were putting out were getting engaged with at a higher level. And that is kind of where your bread is buttered on social media. That's what you want to see. Now, I don't know exactly why that is. It's probably they had a couple really good tweets. It may be people, you know, engaging with tweets from the day before. But when you see something like this, where the number of tweets went down, but impressions and engagement went up, that is that is what you want to take and build that into your plans going forward. So whatever those tweets were, you know, however the audience engaged with that, that's what you're trying to capture and build out week over week, campaign over campaign, you know, convention over convention, you know, anything that you kind of want to build it to.
And Joey, to answer the question, all we did was put up the map.
Yeah.
That's when we had that classic map and we gave the results, gave a few tweets on it, and then everyone just went crazy with it because so many people around the country were part of it. We all celebrated that together. So that's the explanation of why it wasn't a heavy tweet day for us.
Yep.
All right. Okay, guys, these are the things that I've learned since COVID. Here's 5. Go through this quickly. Number 1 is working with a micro-influencer for higher engagement. A micro-influencer would be like anyone from Shape America, like Joey, Stephanie, Michelle, Carly. I mean, you can go through the list, a Jamie Sparks, a Judy Lobianco. But as Joey and I were talking about, your state also has their micro-influencers. And you want to identify who those folks are too, which again will help you get higher engagement. The next thing that I've learned, and this is probably if you took nothing else away from anything I've said, guys, you want to rock star first thing like late tomorrow on your post, repurpose your best content, especially the video, because I have seen time and time and time again where you'll see increases of 2 times, 3 times, or even 4 times the views. A great example of that was YouTube Mom. On Mother's Day, there was a very slow day in terms of social media. Put that tweet in for Megan Baker, a Spaker Spot. And when it identified her as a YouTube mom, we saw a 30% increase in views because we also put the link to their last Spaker Spot episode. And Career Y, this is something that Shape America put out. We had our own Anna from the Chalk Your Walk committee. She talked about her career why. She's been a veteran teacher for quite some time. And she shared a why, and she broke over 3,000 views with just a short, under a minute video about why she's in the profession. Another thing, and this is the picture on the right, guys, it's me with Adam Schefter. I had the privilege and opportunity to work with him at the NFL Combine. I got a chance to stream him live during the Sport Management Worldwide Convention that they do during the NFL Combine. And here's what he said. He was asked the question, hey Adam, you're the #1 guy in football, breaking news. How did you get to that level? And here's what he said. Work every day towards becoming a trusted news source and resource. So in other words, if I don't have the information, I'm going to go get the information and share it with you. Otherwise, if I have the opportunity to break the news, I'm going to do it. That's been a big mindset that we've adopted here at MOSHAPE and taken that mindset. And I've been very blessed and honored to work with Sport Management Worldwide, to work with people certainly at the level of an Adam Schefter. All I can say, guys, is when you're going to get into the world of live streaming or even doing broadcasting, all I can tell you is you better create and use talking points, and in some cases scripts. Unless you're, a pro that you're doing this all the time, I can't say enough of how important it is. For example, we never put out a MOSHAPE minute without having our talking points. And if by chance sometimes something gets messed up, we'll either edit or we'll just redo the broadcast before we put it out. Obviously, we don't stream that one live. And last but not least, this is a whole mindset that I always tell our team, why everyone else is in marketing, why everyone else is zigging, we must be the zag. And the only way we're going to be the zag is if we take advantages of opportunities like launching a Chalk Your Walk, launching Stuck at Home Recess, launching Stuck at Home Snacks. And yes, Jamie, I want to throw this out to you. I'm glad to hear you're coming back tomorrow at noon Eastern time for Pedal Pep Talks. Guys, These are all things that just happened during COVID. Okay, there was no huge long process of getting all this stuff approved. I mean, yes, we talked to our leadership about what we were going to do, but we worked in smaller teams so that we could get this stuff out. We're very diligent in getting this done, and you guys have all seen the results, and this is kind of what we do. And with that, all I can say is I want to give a huge shout out to Health Moves Minds, to our committee, because Christy Berry, Kyle Salvo, and Anna do a fantastic job, and it was their brain trust. And this whole notion of we're all in this together and how this all came about. And Mary, do we have the ability to bring Christy on for like a couple minutes?
Yep, I'm here.
All right, Christy, why don't you go ahead? What I want people to hear is not the how we did it through technique and tools. I want people to hear just how grassroots this thing was and the timelines we worked on, and really how you came up with the idea.
Well, first of all, hey, MOSHAPE and Shape America members. Got to get the sign in there, right?
Of course you do.
Chalk your walk. Well, seems so long ago, but back on March 21st, a stay-at-home order was issued across Missouri. And at that time, panic and fear seemed to be the new normal for so many of our families, particularly our school communities. I had teachers reaching out to me. I'm a very strong person, and I was even struggling and thinking, what could I do to show some positivity, kindness? How could I also get my kids at school on board? So I reached out, obviously, to my wonderful Health Moves Minds committee with Kyle and Anna, and kind of talked to them about this. And I said, let's do something like Chalk Your Walk and hashtag Health Moves Minds with that, because we did want to show positivity and kindness. So we talked about it. Everybody was kind of on board. And then the next thing is we obviously reached out to you, Guy, and you kind of helped us with our strategic plan.
Yep.
And then thank you to Jamie Sparks for taking it to the next level and then pushing it out on his wonderful pedal pep talks. And then the next thing I know, we got 42 states and 3 countries. And every time I see that map, it still gives me chills today. And for everyone that's on here that participated, thank you, because you're also part of that success. And you know that we needed to continue to do that positivity and kindness. And I think we probably need to look at doing this again, hopefully right before school starts back up.
Christy, absolutely. And one thing I do want to mention, and I told this to Christy, I said, normally this would probably never be able to be done, but because we were all stuck at home, we were actually between that team, as well as myself, we were personally messaging, or even corporately, everyone who posted. We gave an attaboy, we said, thank you, or we said, great job. I mean, my favorite was in Montana. They had snow. They were shoveling the snow, and they still put the chalk. In Seattle, imagine that, it was raining. What did? They went to their whiteboard. Guys, everyone was just going in, and we were so appreciative. We could have never possibly imagined it would have led to this. And Christy, I just want to thank you for having this absolutely insane idea. Again, it was driven from your why, because you wanted to make a difference.
Well, thank you. And I got to also thank our team and all of our MOSHAPE and Shape America members for going along with.
Well, thank
I
you.
want to also give a shout out to Anna, who's on here.
Hi. I was ready for Christy. So Christy and I were FaceTiming each other. We were doing some No Tattoo for Sparks repetition, because when we had the tattoo, we had a big snowstorm and Christy couldn't make it. So here I am holding up the phone on FaceTime, having Christy on it so she could be a part of the experience. So that's what we were doing behind the scenes, as Christy was trying to get logged in. So it was so much fun.
Yeah.
So it's always fun having you guys, obviously, always coming up with these crazy ideas. That is why you guys are known as SEAL Team 6, simply because
Well, thank you,
you
guys.
guys have such a...
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, what we're going to do now is just take a quick pause. I want to give you guys another quick poll. is kind of important. Let me find the second one. Here we go. Let's talk about data analysis. This simple poll, quick poll too. I want to learn a little bit more about you guys. Great stuff. By the way, this is all anonymous, guys. Again, we just want you to share what's really going on so we can certainly come collectively together and better serve you. We can't do it without data. All right, we'll go about 12 more seconds. And this is good stuff. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and 5 seconds. I'm gonna end the polling. To no surprise, 67% said you not use social media analytics whatsoever. I should make you feel better about yourselves because that's the national average. So you're in with everyone else. But I hope after today, guys, this is all gonna change. So now we go into what you guys wanna learn more about. And YouTube leads the way, second by Facebook and Twitter. So we know that we're probably gonna do some sessions there. So want to thank you guys for answering our poll. And we're gonna go ahead and move on. And I'm gonna skip over this. Only thing I want to say here, guys, is as I reiterated, this was the first time we had Stephanie Moore share her why, and it turned out to be a big time thing. Also with Ashley Krause, she shared her why, which her session was on the why, but that turned out to be very important. Here's some fun facts, really not so fun, but real facts. That viewers spend 8 times longer on live video than on demand, especially when you guys are starting to think about what you want to do with your virtual conferences. Streaming video accounts for over 67% of all internet traffic. Nearly 80% of marketers say live video facilitates a more authentic interaction, just like we're doing right now. And 61% say that live video brings that human touch to digital marketing, just like Anna did by being live, just like Christy did being live. And now this is the social media audit. And all I'm going to say, guys, your starting point needs to be on the audit itself, because this has got to be a starting point. If you guys need assistance with this, you can certainly reach out to Joey or myself. These are the things that we're experts in. We'd be more than happy to help your state. This is takes a little bit of time, but the great thing is you already have the data collected. All we need to do is just is to download the data that you already have and run the reports. It's actually that easy for us to do. But if you guys want assistance with this, just let us know. And basically the audit gives you honest insights, perspectives, identifies those blind spots, and certainly you'll use this as the foundation to strategy. And with strategy, Tom, this gets into where I know we're right at like 2:58. So Tom, I'm not sure how you want to handle this part of it, but
Yes, Guy. We have to start with the conceptualization. When we go into a new direction, we have to look at what are the purposes, what are the goals we want to accomplish, whether it's social media, any other type of action that we take as an association. We now have 1,091 members, and it's important that we engage them and we empower them. It's very important from our board of directors and our function and operations that we share all vital information. We guide the development and implementation of quality programs, and doing this, we're raising the branded image so we can go on to the next thing, Guy. And when we look at this, of course, we have to look at what are the purposes for messaging. we have a few members that still want to have printed copies mailed to them. So we're looking at, Guy used me as an example of a generational divide, but don't think that the old guy doesn't have a few tricks up his sleeve too. That it's very important to make sure that everybody is aware of what we're to do. We have to promote everybody. We want as many to be engaged as possible. Sharing, raising, gauging responses to media actions. That's where the analytics come in. Okay, we go next then, Guy. And we have to be looking at capacity. When I came into this position 6 years ago, we had a website. We didn't have an email capability other than whatever we created. So we use a variety of ways to make sure that we get the message to everyone involved, and you'll be able to see what we do there. Not only do we have the website, we have the member clicks, which is now known as Oasis. I can hit a button, Mary can hit a button, and we can send messages to all 1,091 members at a time. We can send messages to the 506 prospects that we have. I can do it by university personnel, future professional personnel. We can divide that out so we can target our messaging. Our Facebook page. One thing about the messaging that we do to all members, in the last message we sent out to 1,091, 580 opened the message. That's one end of it. Some people do not use or open their emails. And the other side, we have 1,091 members, but I believe it was 603 this morning who are members of our Facebook page. So we're trying to always migrate people from our membership into Facebook page, into Twitter use, and other things that they maybe don't feel very comfortable with. And Mary has designed and operated our convention app for the past few years, sched.com, sched.com. And so we have to coordinate all these types of things. We have a year-long master schedule that we create for that highlights what we are doing. The chairs of our 7 committees collaborate so that they have information they are expected to push out and work with. We have themed actions, we have weekly actions. So we can go on from here then. To the next, please. We have to have tech tools, and we're constantly building on this. We just got our Zoom contract a couple months ago, and we've been using it almost every day. Not quite every day, but in the past 5 days, we've had 2 national webinars with Shape America. We had a town hall meeting yesterday for our members. We plan all those types of things. So we have to have a stable of tech tools, but we also have to have human capital. We have to have the human capacity to do all the messaging that we need to do. And we're very fortunate because we've had Mary Dreemeyer in our position of Director of Technology and Social Media for a number of years, and she's masterful, always right there and gets it done. We have one of the committee chairs is the chair of the Promotions and Communications and Promotions Committee. And Chris Staley is a young member of our association who is just knocking the lights out with the MOSHAPE minutes. And then we have Guy with the Director of Digital Marketing. And this is, you can see the effect that this is having. So we can go to the next slide. We have a lot of people involved. And we also have to assess the impact. When Guy and I were meeting a couple of months ago, we were talking about the analytics that he's developed through Hootsuite. And we decided we needed to have that. So we immediately went online, paid for it, and now we have that for a full year so we can have the tools that he needs to provide information to help us with the moving forward. We're always modifying. This is not carved in stone. Everything is a dynamic process because we don't know tomorrow what will be important to people, and the things that might have been important a week ago or a year ago probably are not. In 1971, I took a course in Fortran 4 programming so I would know how to operate the mainframe computer, and became the first doctoral student in our program at the University of Iowa to use the mainframe for analyzing dissertation data. Well, I haven't even thought about Fortran 4, and it's a dead thing. When I had a workshop for faculty members at the University of Missouri in St. Louis in 1978, I brought in my Commodore 64 to show them how we were moving from the Texas Instruments calculators into more information processing. So we're always making modifications. We're reviewing and highlighting. And this will give you just an example of the yearly communication guide that we have. This shows what our themes are. And then this is just a general yearly theme. And then for each month, we modify that and we bring in the committees that need to be highlighted, the actions that need to be highlighted, the things that we want to share with people. Okay, go ahead. And then with the monthly planning, what are the committee priorities? Well, we know that reentry was a big priority. We know that Health Moves Minds is a big priority. A convention, or whether it's in person or virtual, is a priority. Various things that we do during the year with our spring workshops, our summer workshops. And so these are the steps that we follow so that we know just exactly what needs to be done. And it's critical there, the third bullet from the bottom, assign persons to handle that responsibility, to upload what needs to be done and present it on one of our platforms. All right, Guy. And then from the monthly, you go down to the weekly. And the one thing that I enjoy greatly is the contact that I have with Mary and Guy and Chris, and then with our president, Dennis. This is a necessity that Guy and I talk at least once every day. We text back and forth a number of times, and everybody the same. So you have to be in an environment where people are listening, and the decision-making is simple. Guy will be sure to tell you, and Mary will be sure to tell you that when they ask me a question about, can I do this, can I do that? All I have to do is paste into their text box, yes. And then we find a way to make it happen. So again, this is part of the branding and messaging that we do. We look at the logos tied to our mission, target audiences. We have to collaborate with all the important agencies and associations in the state that support education and support health. Logo merchandise. What kind of messaging do we have to do? The timing issues. Well, we know that pushing something out on a Friday night at 10 o'clock is going to go nowhere. So you look at the time. When I taught online classes, whether they were synchronous or asynchronous, especially the asynchronous, I found that the majority of the assignments were completed between 10 o'clock at night and 3 o'clock in the morning. And so you have to be able to put information out so that people can access it and use it in the best way they can do it. So again, we're always looking at timing issues and connecting and piggybacking on others. We're very fortunate in Missouri to have one of the CDC's 1801 grants on Missouri Healthy Schools. And with Sean Nevels at our Department of Elementary and Secondary Education and Laura Beckman, the director of the CDC grant, then we know that we're all working together collaboratively. And so these are some of the expected outcomes. Again, items like this are changing as we go, but this was the planning process that set up just exactly what we're going to do. Instead of being haphazard and throwing something up on the wall and hope that it sticks, we want to do it in a planned way. We have to find out what information, what materials, what support do people need. So with any surveys that we do, we find out what their pressing needs are. We saw that definitely with Health Moves Minds, and we will continue to blast that out many times every week, and with reentry. So again, we're trying to respond and still to drive the news cycles, as Guy said. So this will give you a little bit of an idea of the planning process that we went through and we will continue to go through and add where it's necessary, minimize where it's necessary, and find out how we can best support and serve our members, because that's the purpose of our society.
And Joey, one of the things I want to bring you in, this is so important. Part of our big success is we coordinate a lot of things with you at the national level, especially we're doing so you have visibility. Could you speak a little bit on why that role is somewhat important?
Yeah, no, and that's a great point. And I will say before we get into that piece that the intention is to take the first part of this presentation and then the piece that Tom just presented on, and kind of blend them together and give the state leaders and anyone who is involved at the state level with social media kind of an A to Z roadmap that you can kind of see what MOSHAPE did specifically. You can see some best practices, and you can kind of fill in the blanks on your end. So that way you can once again jumpstart kind of this thought process. And to what Guy just mentioned, at the national level, we're always trying to amplify and share pieces of content that make sense for us, but also help promote your brand, because we're only as strong as everyone else. So the idea that MOSHAPE has a new content piece that Guy has alerted me to, he'll send it out, he'll tag us so I get the alert, and then we will amplify via retweet, via engaging, and things of that nature. I will tell you very quickly, and this is more for kind of future planning, Facebook is the #1 social media platform. Our audience and community, specifically physical and health educators in the K through 12 setting, if you want to drill it down, are more active on Twitter than the average audience. So when you see what we do nationally and what MOSHAPE does, there's a reason for it, specifically driven to Twitter. We still post on Facebook every day, but Twitter does get a little more attention because if you look at the averages, our audience is more engaged on Twitter than the average person. So we try to meet our audience where they are, and that's something I would impress upon you as well, as Tom just kind of laid out, trying to figure out those outcomes that work best, not only for MOSHAPE, but also MOSHAPE members, and really crafting and tailoring your strategy around that. That's going to be your winning formula on social media.
So with that, guys, and this is a great example, and Joey can speak to this, we worked in combination in terms of with the launch of the reentry guidelines, reentry school considerations. And Joey and I, we were talking one day on our normal call, and I said, well, it's one thing to have the document, but I know, like myself, I'm not going to read a 30-page document. I'd rather watch a video of people talking about to get me interested of what it really is, and then I'll go pick the document up and start to read it. But we thought this was a great starting point for us to really bring some texture or context to a lot of things that were being said, and Joey can speak a little more to that.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example, especially a recent example of taking a piece of content that was already going to be big in terms of its reach and its outcomes, and then really distilling it and piecing it out for your audience, and then also to repurpose down the line. I can tell you that coming soon, we will have also new pieces of content that are based on this document, as well as new things as the news unfolds and we learn more about what this back to school will look like in the fall. So as Guy said, sometimes it's not just enough to create something and put it out. You have to really think strategically, how will this best resonate with our audience? Is it a panel discussion? What MOSHAPE did was great, because you get a panel of folks who have different perspectives, who may take different pieces of the resource and explain it in a way that best will work with someone in their position or your audience. So always think of how the average consumer or people in your state association at the grassroots level will take this information, because like Guy said, it's not just enough to say, oh, hey, we just did X. let's put it out there. Okay, check the box, we're on to the next thing. You really have to think, how will this work and how will our folks use this? And that's what we think at the national level. And I know MOSHAPE does that as well.
And if you haven't seen it, I'm not trying to give a plug here, but go to our YouTube, guys. You can watch the hour-long webinar, and it's right on point, straight to the School of Reentry considerations from Shape America. I mean, we were very diligent in the discussion and the panelists that we chose for this. We were real excited, and Joey, want to say thank you, and to Carly and to Michelle for giving us this opportunity to do this.
Yeah, no problem.
Just want to let you guys know as we're starting to wrap up, is that you guys can catch us every Monday at 3 o'clock with the MOSHAPE Minute with Chris Staley. He always brings a heavy daily dose of some really cool things there. And of course, Spaker Spot is every Wednesday at noon Central Time with their Stuck at Home Summer, Spaker Summer Camp. You don't want to miss that, as well as every Tuesday at noon. Lisa Farmer has her Tasty Tuesday, which she just did today. If you haven't seen it, go check it out, because I got to tell you, it's pretty cool. And then brand new content, kind of breaking news. I know Jamie put this out yesterday, but the Pedal Pep Talks are back. And thank you, Jamie, so much. And he's going with a little expanded version here. I know we're all going to clap on that one, because I know I am. That's actually how Chalky Walk got inspired, from one of his pep talks. So Jamie, looking forward to getting back. Tomorrow you go live at noon Eastern Time. And we're introducing something brand new. Lauren Krebs, who was just now recently funded, like myself, under a brand new CDC grant. We're going to be going live for just 10 minutes, every Thursday at noon Central Time. And what we're going to talk on is taking these things that you've identified in terms of things you want to learn more about. And the very first one, which again, I had no idea what you guys were going to say. I just guessed that it might have been how to live stream. Join us this Thursday, July 2nd, I believe it is, right? I think. And we're going to go ahead and fire up that. We'll put the links out tomorrow for that event. Now, at this time.
So, Guy,
yeah.
Can I bust in with a question before you get off here? Melissa asked bit links. How do you use them? Explain a little bit more about that.
Okay, a bit.ly link is basically where you will take a URL and you will copy it and you put it into, by the way, bit.ly is free. You just connect it with your Twitter or Facebook. And when you drop it in where it says create a bit.ly link, it's that simple. It then gives you a new link, and it usually says bit.ly. That way you know it's a bit.ly link. And then as we showed earlier, you saw the report of that. I mean, that's how easy it is to use a bit.ly link. The other thing it does, a lot of times people have huge URLs. It shortens that thing down, which helps out a lot as well. So it saves on space, particularly on Twitter. But the main reason why you want to use it is getting that feedback of how many clicked it. Just like when the session's over, tomorrow when we repurpose and post this, I'm going to put a bit.ly link out to see how many people have actually clicked it, to see, again, how many people were interested in this content. So that's how easy bit.ly is to use. That's a great question. Mary, anything else coming through?
And yeah, feel free to ask any questions in the chat. The key with bit.ly is, as Guy said, it basically takes your URL. It makes it so you get more of the analytical side from if people are clicking it, if they're sharing it, and it also saves space. So it's an important tool to add to your toolbox. It is free. You can connect it. I would highly recommend that you use it with pretty much everything that you're posting. If you look, most of the stuff we put out has bit.ly links. The only time we won't do it is if it's our specific content that we want, branded URLs on there. So.
Sure.
Also, they wanted to know, and I think this is a yes. Are we going to have this PowerPoint presentation available, the recording of this webinar, etc.?
All the above. Yes. The link will go out tomorrow. Yeah, the link will go out definitely tomorrow, and we'll make the PowerPoints available as well in a PDF form, which we'll have all that available for everyone tomorrow. Anything else? I would take one more question. As if you could, for our benefit, for those that are still remaining, if you could do us a huge favor, Guys, if you could just put in the chat box just one thing that you learned, one key takeaway, something maybe you never heard before, or maybe something you didn't know as much about. But if you could maybe put that in the chat, that would be kind of beneficial. Now, that is your chat, so we'd see who you are. But if you learned something over the past hour and 10 minutes, we would love to know what that is, because we threw a lot of information at you, and we just want to know. There we go, Bitly links. Yeah, exactly. That's a huge one. You guys will love Bitly, not to mention it's free. By the way, almost everything we shared with you is all free. Is all free. So
Also, our MOSHAPE minutes, they're available on the YouTube channel for MOSHAPE. I believe that Guy posts them on Twitter and our Facebook group page. Where do we find the pedal talks?
do you have the ability? Is Jamie still on? If he is, could you open him? Open him up. Let him tell. I don't know, actually.
All right, just give me a moment and I'll get them on.
Yeah, we'll get Jamie on.
All right. Where is he? He may not be paying attention to us, huh?
Yeah, I just saw him on there, but then
There he is.
Do we have
I
him?
played it for once. Hey, everybody. Question was pedal pep talks. Well,
Yes,
it's
sir.
a great time to ask this question, Guy, because before I live streamed with my computer in front of me and Facebook, and I also had my phone there for Twitter. So I'm probably going to do that tomorrow, but I have been playing around with some simul streaming opportunities. So if anybody has any great advice on that, I'd be glad to test it out this week.
Well, Jamie, you know you always can call your friends here in Missouri. Would love to help you out.
But Facebook or Twitter, either one will have that live. And I'm actually doing a schedule this time. You know, Guy helps me with some great strategies. So setting a time every day instead of just randomly hopping on the bicycle. So
Yeah, you're going to find you're going to get more viewers that way, because people are going to get used to it. Just like we learned with our stuck at home recess and stuck at home snacks. It's really easy. Everyone knows Tuesday at noon, Lisa Farmer. Wednesday at noon, Spaker Spot. And
I'm sorry I don't
and-
look as good as Tom today, by the way. Man, both you and Guy, but wow, you guys look good.
I tell you what, doesn't happen all the time, Jamie, but we can do it.
Well, Jamie, we're really looking forward to, obviously, you going back with the pedal pep talks. I'd like to think maybe our interview maybe gave you a little pressure and nudge from people when we brought it up, because you know I was going to go there, and I'm glad we did, because I just think it's time, especially with everything that's going on around us. And it's always great to certainly, getting you back, just sharing with a bunch of things and keeping us focused and positive.
I appreciate that, and that definitely peer pressure did help. And to not make light of that, it is a monumental task that's ahead of us for what educators are facing. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Mary, you have any other questions?
No, we don't. We just have some great takeaways. Bitly seems to be the most popular one.
You want to give us a couple of takeaways to shout them out? I'm not looking at that screen.
So we have, oh my gosh, I have to scroll through all the Bitly takeaways. The top
There
10,
we go.
if you remember the top 10.
Yeah,
The calendar was a big one.
that's huge.
Repurposing popular videos and images.
Yep.
And that's mostly, those are the most popular ones.
Well, guys, we just want to thank you so much for the opportunity to share this with you. Jamie and Tom want to thank you guys for just testing the waters with the SAM group. I don't know how that came about, but I just appreciate you guys talking about it and getting this on the radar of Jamie and myself. Because as you know, Jamie, we were not able to do this like we planned to at Salt Lake City. That was the plan then. But especially since COVID, it's kind of amazing as we look back at those photos, all that's actually occurred and happened with social media, which is part of the reason why you and I did our interview a few weeks ago to talk about the impact that we're having on the HPE community through these platforms. So with that, guys, there's our contact information. I'm gonna be very honest with you. The simple, easiest way to get a hold of me is always on Twitter. It's really easy to get a hold of me. Of course, there's my email. Also, if you want to address something to Tom, his contacts there, and also Joey Martelli. Joey, I just have to thank you so much for being part of this with us. I wanted everyone to see how we work in combination together. I think it's really important to see the kind of synergy we're having. Also, you're seeing even state to state the synergy that we're having. For example, MOSHAPE is having, even with like Missouri Healthy Schools, and now we're getting involved with the Missouri Coalition Group, and you're going to see us doing more and more, collaborating together, as well as we did with certainly the Missouri PTA. So this is a big part of what we're doing. Again, this is a conversation starter. You guys asked what we could, you guys wanted to see what we do. I think we're highly transparent in what we delivered today. And hopefully, like I said, you guys got something very useful that you can apply as early as tomorrow morning. Certainly as you guys, go move forward with your social media. So with that, Tom, any last words?
Just as we say every day, thank you for being Guy, and thank you for being what you do. And Joey, thank you for allowing us to connect in these ways, and especially your staff at Shape America. We think the world of what they are doing for us. So Stephanie, Michelle, Carly,
Yeah,
many others are at the top of the line. So we're all connected, and having national leaders like Jamie out in front. Wow, what a difference this makes. So Jamie Sparks, thank you again for doing that. And the tattoo shop is ready for your return.
well, I don't even, all right, we're ending on that note, because that's a powerful note. And Jamie, if you're going to come back, we're streaming live. So I'm just letting you know right now, we'll be ready. Anna will get the heart rate monitor on you. That way we know when you go above 120, we're not going to interview you. If you're below 100, we got you, buddy. We got you. That's the way we roll here. So guys, thank you guys once again for our panel, Joey Martelli, Tom Lowry, also SEAL Team 6 members. I am Guy Danoff. We want to thank you guys for watching this very special presentation right here on MOSHAPE Media. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Stop broadcast.
Thanks for everybody's help.
Hey, Tom, hit the stop broadcast. Did you do that?
I'm looking for it. I'm seeing the options. I don't have the bar. We've got guys screen sharing still on.